Do you ever wonder why some photos stand out and they just look so sharp while others fall flat? In this video, I'm going to dive into my secrets behind sharpness and how it is way more than just the focus of your lens. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here, and today I want to address one of the questions that I've been asked countless times over my years as an educator. People always ask, how do your images look so sharp? And people think it's things like technical settings, right? How I export my files or my aperture or the lens that I choose. And yes, these elements do play a role, but they are not the full story. There's a much deeper and artistic reason behind why my images are sharp, crisp, and three-dimensional. What many photographers don't realize is that sharpness is not just about your camera's ability to capture minute detail, and that's what a lot of photographers focus on. Yes, gear does matter, but it's actually how you use contrast that makes the difference. And so I'm going to break down how contrast impacts the perceived sharpness of an image and how I use contrast in so many different ways, through light, color, and post-processing to achieve my signature pop that makes my images stand out. Before we get into the magic of contrast, let's start with the basics. As a professional photographer, I use high quality gear, and that definitely contributes to the technical sharpness of my images. Like right now I'm shooting with a Canon R5 Mark II with a lineup of Canon's RF lenses, which are known for superb resolving power. These lenses capture a ton of detail. And yes, this plays some role in the clarity of my work. I also often do shoot at apertures like f8 or f11, which provides a lot of depth of field, and that means a wider proportion of the frame is in focus, which can make the image look sharp. But here's the key. While many people use this exact gear and shoot at these same apertures, my images still have that extra layer of sharpness. So why is that? The answer is there's more to perceived sharpness than just technical details like the resolution or the depth of field. Even when I do shoot at a shallow depth of field, a wide aperture, people still say, wait, how do your images look so sharp? And that's because sharpness is not just about everything being in focus. All right, so now let's talk about the real secret in making an image appear sharper, and that is contrast. So when you hear sharpness, you probably think of the camera's ability to capture detail, right? But the truth is, perceived sharpness in an image is influenced by contrast, specifically the contrast difference between elements in this scene. Contrast enhances clarity and the separation of objects. Sharpness is most notable along edges, so the transition of light and shadow, the transition of colors, like colors in the foreground or background or between textures. And when there's a strong contrast at the edges, this draws attention there and it gives the impression that the edges are sharper. They pop out more. I purposely use contrast in light, color, and post-processing in my work for maximum impact, and I make these choices all the time. So let's take a look and I'm gonna break this down. So let's start with probably my favorite way to use contrast in an image, and that is lighting. Lighting isn't just about illuminating your subject, it's how you shape the light to create depth, to create dimension, to create separation in your images, all of these things. And many photographers, they avoid hard light because yes, it can be unforgiving. It can reveal a lot of flaws and texture to the skin, but I embrace it, especially when I want my images to have a crisp, poppy look. Hard light creates hard edges of the shadow, strong transitions between highlight and shadow, and this enhances the perception of sharpness. Clean, defined edges make something look crisp, especially around the contours of the face, the folds of fabric, the edges of the subject. For example, I love to use a tool called an optical spot because I can precisely control where the light goes. I can create a narrow beam of light that cuts across the subject's face or body. It creates strong contrast in the lit areas surrounded by shadows. And this not only adds drama and intrigue and interest to the image, but it makes the subject appear sharper because of the separation of light to shadow. And it's not just about hard light, right? Even when I'm using soft light in my setups, I can still use shadows to my advantage. I sculpt the light carefully. So it could be a defined rim light or highlight that shows the edge of the subject. Or maybe it's a gradient on the background. You can create depth and that makes the image feel sharper. Shadows are essential to this. And in turn, it enhances that sharpness. While light and shadow is crucial, and it's probably my favorite way to create contrast, do not underestimate the power of color, and specifically color contrast to make the image look sharper. Color can have as much impact on the perceived clarity of an image as light can or shadows can. I often use really strong, saturated, rich colors against a muted or neutral background. This creates visual contrast. It makes the subject jump off the page, off the screen. So imagine a vibrant red against a white background. Your eye is naturally drawn to the subject because of the contrast and the sharp difference between the two. Now, beyond just using bold colors, I lean heavily into complementary colors because this is a contrast. So complementary colors. Colors are opposite each other on the color wheel. Think of like blue and orange, purple and yellow. When I use these together, it enhances each other's intensity and it creates contrast. It's complementary, it's balanced, but it is also opposing. So for example, imagine a model. She's blue, lit with blue, or a blue dress in front of a warm color background or a warm rim light. This immediately creates visual separation impact because of the contrast of the warm and cool tones. And it makes the entire scene look more defined and crisp. Even though my images often look good and sharp right out of camera, the final step to creating that polished, crisp look does happen in editing. First off, I generously utilize the contrast slider with my raw processing. I amplify the separation between the highlights and shadows, which gives more depth. And also, I usually utilize the entire histogram. So I have pure blacks, I have pure whites. And so embracing this tonal range, my images have a deep, rich black, a bright, crisp white. Like, it adds dimension and drama to the image, which makes it look sharper because of the contrast and also all the details that emphasizes. Also, I frequently use the clarity slider. I use it quite a bit to boost the contrast in the midtones. This is so useful when I want to bring out texture, but I don't really want to increase the contrast of the whole image. But post-processing isn't just about contrast or clarity or tonal contrast. I also fine-tune the colors in post. I'll go into HSL, use saturation luminance, I'll go into that panel and I'll adjust each color so that they pop against each other. So for example, if I want the reds in an image to pop, I might boost the saturation. I might desaturate the background more or even the skin tone because that separation makes things look like they're a little bit sharper, there's more contrast to the image. Last but not least, I want to point out that contrast is not just about light, it's not just about color, it's not just about post-processing. It's also about making creative decisions for your subject, your scene, your styling. So for example, I often will take a really elaborate subject against a clean background. That contrast really makes the subject pop out, look sharp, feel more in focus. I also love playing around with texture contrast. For example, I'll pair smooth skin, a clean background against a rough texture of clothing. When you have differences in texture or detail or anything like that, it draws attention to those details and it enhances the perception of sharpness. So if you want your images to be sharp, yes, invest in good lenses, pay attention to your settings and your focus and all of that, but much more importantly, think about how you can use contrast in light, color, and post-processing, even in your styling choices to make your images stand out. And by leveraging contrast, you can make photos that look sharper, more dynamic, full of light, and just pop off the screen. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. And don't forget to use contrast as a powerful tool. Now, if you want to see some of my favorite kit that I use to make these images, be sure to check out the links in the description below. And when you're ready to pick up that gear, be sure to visit Adorama. All right, everybody, thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.